everybody. This is another video about using raw milk and how to make some cheese out of raw milk using simple yogurt and rennet. I'm Jeanette and you're visiting the Neil's Homestead.
I used to live in the country on a high lonesome hill. Crow by day, by night the whippoorwill.
Now I've gotten some more milk from my Amish friends and I'm going to use a gallon for this and put it in a pan. My milk has sat out at room temperature for a little while, but it's still fairly cold. And then to this I'm adding some yogurt, and this is just yogurt that I bought at Aldi. It's made from whole milk and it has the yogurt enzymes in it. That's what you need to make sure you have yogurt enzymes. And I'm putting 1 cup of this into a gallon of milk. With mixing yogurt in to milk like this, you need to stir it for quite a while to make sure it's all well blended. Because the yogurt kind of wants to stick together a little bit. I'm going to stir this for about a minute just to make sure that it's well blended. Now what I have to do with this milk, with the yogurt mixed in, is I have to heat it up to 100 degrees and let it, quote, age for only 2 hours or so. I was reading somebody's suggestion that a very, very easy way to get your milk to 100 degrees and keep it there is to use the dehydrator. And that's why I'm standing in front of my dehydrator. This is a Cabela's dehydrator, and I'm just going to set this pan of milk in there on the shelf and set the temperature to 100 degrees, and it'll take a little bit of time for it to warm up, but I'm going to leave it in there for about 2 hours. I stacked up 3 shelves in here so it would have extra strength and not bow too much with the weight of the milk. It's still bowing a little bit, but I think it's going to be okay. I'm going to set the temperature up to 100 and the time for 2 hours. I don't have to stand at the stove and be checking the temperature every 2 minutes. I can just stick it in there and it's going to work great. I'm happy to discover the possibilities of using this for making cheese and yogurt. I haven't tried it for yogurt, but I'm going to. After I've let the milk ripen for 2 hours with the yogurt in it at 100 degrees in my dehydrator, then it's time to add rennet. There are basically 2 different kinds of rennet that are available for us to buy. And what I'm going to use on this is a tablet rennet. And it's much easier to buy. Most grocery stores have this kind of tablet rennet. The other kind is liquid rennet, and I've ordered some from Amazon. It should be coming in the next day or 2, but for this cheese I'm going to use the tablet rennet. It's commonly used for making homemade ice cream, and it just acts as a congealing agent, thickening agent, but it's done by congealing the proteins in the milk. And in the rennet box, they actually have a recipe for making some hard cheese and ricotta cheese and several different other kinds of softer cheeses. So I'm basically using the recipe out of this rennet box, but I'm modifying it a little bit just like I like to do. They are sold in foil packets, and it looks like you get 8 tablets, and I paid $1.69, and I got this at my Amish bulk food store. So for a gallon of milk, what I do is take out 1 tablet. They are scored on one side with, you could cut them into fourths, but I need to take out 1 and cut it in half. And then I've got a 1/4 cup of cold water to dissolve it in. When the tablet's nicely dissolved, then I'll pour it into my milk slowly and just stir gently around. Now when I was doing the yogurt, I needed to stir for a longer time, but with mixing the rennet in, you just stir it until it's mixed in, and then you let it sit. I'm going to put it back in my dehydrator to keep it warm. This time I'm going to put it at like 90 degrees instead of 100. And then I need to have it there for at least an hour, maybe 2 hours. Well, the time's up again, so we're going to take this out and see what it looks like. The way I can tell if it's done is by sticking my finger in and then bringing it up like that and seeing that it breaks. This is called that the curd is breaking. The next thing I have to do is cut the curd, and that just is done with a big knife, going down every about ½ inch. Make a slice going this way and then going perpendicular this way. Now what we have is up and down columns of curd, and to make little cubes we have to do it diagonally like that because we can't get down to the pan right to make them perfect cubes, because they're going to be diamond shaped. For this next step I need to turn the burner on really low and start it warming. You know, if you're doing this, you have to know your stove to find out how fast it warms up. And I washed my hands like I went to the coronavirus store, and I'm putting my hand down in there to gently stir around the curds. Now I don't want to beat them up, and if I see a curd that's kind of big, then I'm going to take my knife and just cut through there. You're not supposed to pinch them or squeeze them, just make a clean cut. The reason you should use your hand on this process is because your hand can tell the temperature better than a spoon can. And you can keep that cheese curd stirred up off the bottom a little easier with the scooping action of your hand, and tell whether it's getting too hot. Because at this point you don't want it too hot because it'll make your cheese squeaky. I'll keep the curd moving around in the bottom of the pan, not sitting on the bottom where it's a little warmer, making sure it doesn't clump up anywhere. And you can see that some of it is actually losing its moisture, the whey is coming out of it, and some of it's still big and fluffy. I'm going to do this for about 15 minutes. Try to maintain 100 degrees temperature. This is after about half of the 15 minutes is gone. And I'm still stirring and cutting the curd whenever I find a piece that's big like that, because they don't let the whey out as well. So you can see a difference in here. The curds are getting smaller. We'll just keep stirring. We're 2 minutes from the time being up. And what I'm looking for is that the curds look like scrambled eggs. It says firm scrambled eggs, and I'm not there yet. And it says if you're not there yet, then you should keep stirring and keep holding the temperature about 100 degrees. I feel like I finally reached the point where overall it feels like pretty firm scrambled eggs. There are still some fluffy ones in there. I'll just call them fluffy. It's probably not the right word for it, but now at this point I'm just going to let it sit unstirred for 10 minutes, and all of the curds will sit down at the bottom. Okay, now it's time to drain the curds, and that means to take the curds away from the whey. And I've lined this colander with some cheesecloth, and then I have another bowl underneath to catch the whey. I'm going to try to be careful here. After I do that, then I need to bring the curds up out of the whey. So I'm going to let them drain pretty good there. I'm probably even going to squeeze them a little bit. Like I've done before, I'm going to hang this up here and clip it with a clothespin to hold it in place and let that drain for a little bit. After it's drained pretty well, then I'm going to dump it into this bowl and add 2 teaspoons of canning salt, because canning salt doesn't have any additives to it. And then I'm going to work it around with my hands to mix the salt in. Feels pretty firm. I don't feel any squishy, soft, fluffy ones like I had. I think they leaked out their whey and have set up pretty nicely. For a mold, I'm using a number 10 can, and I've cut both ends out of it. And then I've got another strip of cheesecloth that I'm going to put in there to line it. I'm not going to put it all the way down for now. I'm catch it with my clothespins. And then put this curds down in there. Well, I collected some away, so I want to drain that off because I don't really need that in there. Now the salt is also going to force the whey to come out of the cheese curds. So during the pressing process, more whey is going to come out. And I've got it on this plate to catch anything that does come out. And I intend to gently let this loose. And set it down in the bottom. And then I'll lay the corners of the cheesecloth over the top. Try to be as neat as I can to make a smoother cheese, I hope. Then we're going to use this that I cut out and press it down on there. And I have a jar filled with water that I'm going to use as a weight. And just let it sit there, and you don't want to put too much pressure on it too fast all at once. You just kind of want a steady, easy pressure. It's going to press all the curds together and press the whey out of it. And then in the morning we'll see what it looks like. Well, the time's come to look at what we've got here with the cheese. It drained all night, and actually it drained part of today because it's not morning anymore. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And so I'm taking it out of the mold. It's still in the cheesecloth, so I take that off. From looking at it, it looks a little more crumbly than I want it to. Maybe it's only on the surface. So you can see that it's not real smooth. It's kind of textured. But it doesn't seem like it wants to fall apart though. So I'm waiting on old guy to come in here, and he's going to be my taste tester again. Okay, ready?
I'm ready. The best part of the cheese making is get to taste it.
Yeah. There's our clock telling us it's 2 o'clock. If you ever hear that sound, that means we have a bird clock. Okay, so it's not real smooth. Let's see what you think.
Looks good.
Tastes good,
I used to live in the country
but
on a
squeaky.
high lonesome
I
hill.
didn't really want squeaky cheese, but this turned out a little squeaky. So, what I think is the deal is with it is that I let it get a little bit too warm. Maybe my thermometer's not quite right. So, when I make it again, I'm gonna go like 98 degrees. Because I was really good at keeping it at 100, but 100 must be a little bit too high for this. So I'm gonna go at 98 degrees. Anyway, I think it turned out really good. Otherwise, I won't have a problem eating it. It's kind of a farmer's cheese.
I like the texture of it. And, a hold all to it.
You like that?
I like that. But it is a little bit squeaky.
You giving Molly a piece?
Yeah.
All right, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.